Imagine tearing your jacket on a freezing day. For you, it is annoying, maybe expensive, maybe embarrassing, but it is not a crisis. You could open a closet, order a new one online, walk into a store, or borrow something warm from a friend nearby. Now remove all of that. No store, no cotton shirt, no zipper, no sewing machine, no washing machine, no size chart. You are standing in the ice age, with cold air cutting through your skin and no spare hoodie waiting anywhere. The only thing between your body and the night is whatever your hands, your group, and the landscape can create. That is the question most of us never ask. How did ancient humans get clothes without stores, closets, or factories? At first it sounds simple. They wore animal skins, as if a fur cloak appeared the moment someone needed warmth. But real clothing is not that simple. A fresh animal skin is not a jacket, and it is not ready to wear. It can be heavy, wet, stiff, smelly, easy to ruin, and useless if the wind finds the wrong gap. For ancient humans, clothing was not fashion first. It was portable shelter, a second skin, carried into dangerous weather. It could decide whether someone walked farther, slept through the night, or slowed the whole group before dawn arrived. The first clothing store was not a building. It was the animal tracked, the plant stripped, and the fire protected. It was the bone shaped into a tool, the hand that knew where to cut, and the memory of winter. Your closet begins in a mall. Their closet began in the landscape, and every piece of it had to be earned. And before clothing could become style, status, or identity, it had to answer one brutal question. Can this body survive tonight? When we think about clothes today, we think about identity. A clean shirt for work, a jacket for confidence, shoes that say something. But for ancient humans, the first question was probably not, does this look good? It was, will this keep me alive? Before clothing became fashion, it had to solve problems skin alone could not solve. Cold wind, sharp ground, insects, sun, and sparks. Cold was the obvious enemy. Human skin is clever in heat, but when temperature drops, a naked body loses warmth fast. A cold wind does not care how clever you are. It makes fingers clumsy, children tremble, and simple work suddenly dangerous. But clothing also guarded skin from thorns, rough bark, sharp stones, dust, biting insects, harsh sunlight, and sparks from the fire. A hide around the shoulders could block wind. A wrap around the feet could soften stone. A strip could protect the hand. In other words, clothing was equipment. It was not decoration hanging on the body. It was a survival tool shaped to move. A modern jacket hides technology in plain sight. Layers, seams, sleeves, fasteners, pockets, and shapes that trap warm air. Ancient clothing had to solve the same basic problems with no factory, no pattern paper, and no second chance from a store. That is why animal skin is too simple an answer. A skin had to become a tool before it became clothing. It had to be chosen, removed, cleaned, softened, dried, shaped, repaired, and sometimes sewn by hands that understood the material. It had to fit a moving body, survive weather, stay light enough to carry, and warm enough to matter. A bad piece of clothing could rub skin raw, leave gaps for cold air, trap moisture, or slow every step. So the first outfit was not a costume. It was survival engineering, made by a community that knew winter was coming. Before anyone could make clothing, someone had to find material. Today, fabric arrives invisible to us, already transformed and ready. Cotton, leather, wool, and thread reach us after the field. The animal, the cutting, the labor, and the waste are hidden. Ancient humans saw all of it. Their materials came straight from the world around them. Animals, plants, bones, bark, and stone. Animal hides could offer warmth and toughness, but first, the animal had to be found, tracked, hunted, scavenged, or shared. Once the animal was there, the group had to decide what could become food, cord, tools, warmth, or decoration. Fur could trap warm air near the body. Sinew could become cord. Bone could become the tool that shaped everything.
Plants mattered too.
Fibers, bark strips, grasses, and roots could be twisted, braided, tied, or woven in simple, useful forms. But none of these materials arrived politely packaged. A child learned by watching which fibers snapped and which ones held. In a store, waste is hidden. In a camp, waste could mean less warmth, less cord, fewer tools, and more danger. A torn hide might mean less protection. A ruined tendon might mean no thread. A broken tool might slow repair for days. Timing mattered as much as skill. If weather turned cold, clothing could not wait until someone felt ready to work. If the group had to move, materials had to be carried, processed quickly, or left behind, with real consequences. If remains were left carelessly near camp, they could spoil, attract insects, or create problems the group did not need. So clothing began as a chain of decisions. Who cuts, who scrapes, who dries, who repairs, and who remembers. The answer was not just animals. Ancient humans got clothes from cooperation, memory, and a group that understood the landscape. Now imagine the group has the hide. The hardest part is not over, because a raw hide is only the beginning of work. A raw hide may be wet, heavy, fatty, awkward to lift, and nothing like the soft coat we imagine. It may carry tissue and fat. If those are left behind, the material can spoil, stiffen, smell, or fail. This is where quiet technology begins. Someone has to scrape with pressure, patience, and a feel for the changing surface. Too little scraping, and the hide spoils. Too much, and it weakens. Skill lives between those two mistakes. No manual explained the perfect moment. Younger hands learned by watching older hands feel when the hide was almost ready. Then the hide had to be softened, stretched, dried, rubbed, smoked, or worked in ways that changed with place and season. We should be careful here. Different groups likely used different methods, and many organic details simply did not survive. But the principle is clear. The material had to be transformed before it could protect a moving, breathing body. A stone scraper can be simple. Using it well is not. A bone awl can be small, but placement matters. A cord can be thin. Twisting fibers or sinew so they hold under stress is a real survival skill. Every finished piece of clothing recorded decisions. Where to cut, where to bend, where to leave extra, and where to repair. Failure had consequences. If the hide stiffened too much, it could rub skin raw, split open, or slow walking. If the holes sat too close to the edge, a seam might tear exactly when cold wind found the opening. So, ancient clothing was not only made with tools, it was made with judgment, memory, and lessons learned before winter returned. At some point, clothing became more than a draped skin. It began to fit the body, and that changed everything. The revolution was small enough to hold between two fingers, a hole, a cord, an awl, and later, a needle. We often imagine prehistoric technology as spears, fire, and stone blades. But a tiny pointed tool could also save lives. A hide wrapped around the shoulders helps, but a fitted garment can close gaps, protect arms, and stay with movement. It can cover legs without falling away, make foot wraps possible, and reduce the cold spaces where wind enters. That is the hidden magic of sewing, not fantasy magic, but engineering. Flat material becomes a shape around the body. A hole lets cord pass through. A cord holds tension. Tension keeps the garment working with the person. Suddenly, clothing is not simply hanging on a person. It is shaped to bend, hold, close, and protect. Bone awls and perforators could make holes. Later, bone and ivory needles allowed finer sewing and closer-fitting layers. The archaeological picture is complex, but the direction is powerful. Clothing became more fitted, layered, and eventually more decorated. A spear helps you get food. A needle helps you survive the night after you get it. Both mattered. A scraper prepares the hide. A cord holds the world together. Small tools made big survival possible, and all of it required planning. You had to make the tool before the emergency, preserve it, and not lose it. The person who could sew was not doing a small decorative task. They were holding a technology of survival. The best hunter might bring back the animal, but the best maker could turn that animal into warmth for everyone. Clothing did something extraordinary. It allowed a warm, vulnerable human body to step farther into colder worlds than skin alone could manage. Fire helped, shelter helped, cooperation helped, but fire stayed in one place, while clothing traveled with the person. A group with better clothing could move farther from camp, cross open wind, track animals longer, and return before hands failed. It helped adults carry children through wind, gather fuel in bitter air, and sleep without losing too much warmth before dawn. Clothing expanded the human map. It did not work alone, but it changed the boundary between possible and impossible. Imagine two groups facing the same cold valley. One has loose hides, the other has fitted layers and repaired seams. The difference is not cosmetic. The difference is time. More minutes moving, searching, carrying, and thinking before cold takes control. More time outside meant more chances to find food, gather wood, study tracks, and return with enough strength to help others. Clothing also changed work. Someone gathered fibers, someone processed hides, someone repaired damage, and someone taught younger hands what mattered. The knowledge lived in practice. A child learned where seams split, how cords tighten, and why wet clothing is dangerous. A torn garment did not belong only to the person wearing it. It could slow the camp, the hunt, or the move. If a child was cold, someone wrapped them. If an elder chilled, memory and guidance could be lost with them. If a hunter's foot wrap failed, the hunt might fail. In that world, clothing carried responsibility, not just warmth. Every shirt, coat, and shoe today hides this older truth. Bodies were never meant to face every climate alone. Clothing was not a private object. It was a social system, stitched from labor, memory, movement, and care. Once clothing helped people survive, it began to say something. Warmth came first, but meaning followed close behind it. A good garment could signal skill. It showed that someone knew materials, seasons, repair, and the patience to finish difficult work. A decorated edge, a rare bead, or a careful stitch could whisper, "I belong here, and this group knows me." Before brands, there were signals. Rare materials, careful repairs, hunting memories, travel stories, and objects others could recognize. A young hunter, wearing a hard-earned fur, might not be showing vanity. He might be showing experience, danger, and contribution. An elder's worn cloak could carry memory. Every patch might remind the group of a winter, a journey, or a lesson. We should not imagine modern fashion shows in the Paleolithic. Their worlds, rules, and meanings were not exactly ours, but the deeper pattern is familiar. Visible things can communicate invisible things. Care, courage, skill, belonging, grief, and respect. Clothing was perfect for this because it sits on the body. It moves with you and is seen by everyone. A garment could protect you and represent you at the same time. That double purpose made clothing powerful. That is why a modern brand is not as modern as it looks. The logo is new, but the instinct is old. Long before mirrors and closets, someone may have adjusted a hide, tightened a cord, or placed a bead before joining others. Not because they were shallow, but because humans live in groups. And in groups, being recognized can matter. Sometimes that recognition meant attraction. Sometimes trust, cooperation, memory, or respect. Clothing became a language before it became a market, and that means every modern outfit carries an ancient echo. Protect the body, show the group, remember who you are. Now return to your closet. It seems ordinary. A jacket, a shirt, shoes by the door, and laundry waiting. One piece makes you look professional. One feels safe and soft. One stays because it remembers who you used to be. But underneath all of that is an ancient story. Clothing still protects us from weather and from feeling exposed.
It tells people where we work,
What group we belong to, what we admire, hide, fear, and hope to become.
we say we have nothing to wear,
While standing before more clothing than most ancient humans could imagine.
yet the feeling underneath,
Is old. The fear of standing before the group, unprepared, cold, awkward, or unseen.
ancient humans did not walk into stores.
They walked into forests, grasslands, caves, riverbanks, coastlines, and cold, open plains.
They looked at animals,
Plants, bones, stones, fire, and one another. Then turned danger into something wearable.
not all at once,
Not perfectly, and not the same way everywhere, but slowly, through memory, need, and repeated hands.
a hide became a wrap.
A wrap became a fitted layer. A pierced hole became a seam, and a seam became warmth.
Warmth became movement.
Movement became migration, and eventually, clothing became a message carried on the body.
So the next time you pull on a jacket without thinking,
Remember what it really is beneath the fabric.
it is portable shelter.
A technology older than cities, stores, money, and the idea of choosing an outfit.
Somewhere under a dark sky,
Someone scraped a hide, tied a cord, and made home something the body could carry.
and that may be clothing's
Oldest promise, not just to cover us, but to help us carry home into the cold.